So in this COVID-19 crisis, everybody knows that what is telemedicine. Everybody is a need searching online and asking for help. So the telemedicine has become the one-line help for everyone to reach doctors. So, so today we are with Dr. Vedarth Das, our expert. So he's a pediatric surgeon and he has done his MCH in PGI Chandigarh. And we're with Dr. Diksha Sabharwal, who Director of Medical Research and CSR, Sirona, India. She has completed her MD in Community Medicine from Sabharwal Hospital, Delhi. And Mr. Ramanuj Mukherjee, he's a successful entrepreneur in the field of online law education and also the co-founder of MChPediatric and LawSikho. So hi, Dr. Vedarth, Mr. Ramanuj, and yeah. So I don't see whether Dr. Diksha has already joined or not. So so if not, she'll be joining in between. So
we have opened the session, so whenever she is available, she can join. Dr. Sabharwal can join.
Okay.
Yeah, we can start the session.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah. So first of all, I'd like to ask Dr. Vedarth how COVID-19 has forced clinicians to practice telemedicine. So yeah, it is. Dr. Vedarth, please go ahead. I think you are mute, so please. Can you?
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Gaurav? Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak among so many people. So coming back to Lalit's question, COVID-19 has actually fundamentally changed the way we practice. Over the past 2 months, the most common issue that we are facing right now are the patients are unwilling to come to an OPD to expose, take the risk of exposure to corona in the setting of the current lockdown and all. So what is happening is issues that would come to us very early or issues that would come to pediatricians early are now coming at a very late stage. Often we end up doing bigger surgeries and more drastic surgeries rather than some things which can be managed simple and early on. So if these patients have an access to a doctor's opinion early on, then probably we can get them early on and probably things can be managed much better. So there is a need to open a channel for the patients to access healthcare easily and from the relative safety of their home. This need is what has been brought to the forefront by COVID-19. Is putting it in very simple words. So as doctors, we need to have channels through which our patients can come to us with their queries, with our follow-ups, and also for the primary consults without having to necessarily visit us in our OPDs and hospitals.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So I'll add on to this question that what are the features a practicing clinician need in a telemedicine system? Because we must be doing some telemedicine stuff in this COVID-19 crisis. So what are the important features in a clinician's point of view to have in a telemedicine system? Even the guideline is there, but what is your need? It will be really helpful to our audience and participants.
So as Lalit said, we have been giving telemedicine consults over the past month or so, and the basic setup to see the patient, having a smartphone or a good internet connection is quite enough for you to see patients. But what we suffer from is the inability to properly examine the patients. The patient who is coming for telemedicine needs to have a good camera system, and we should be able to see what the patient is trying to show easily. And if at all we can get setups in which the basic biometric data like the weight and the since I'm a pediatrician, I deal with weight and height much more as compared to the others. But yes, the height, the weight, and the basic demographics of the patient should be available to us easily. And so these are the basic things that we require in telemedicine right now.
Yeah. So the most important thing is the patient consent. So I would ask Mr. Ramanuj that the patient consent and patient privacy and legal aspect. So it's such a big thing. So I would like to hear from Ramanuj.
Hi everybody. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on this topic. This is a very interesting topic for me. I think there's of course very detailed telemedicine guidelines that has come up. It's written in a very easy to understand language, and I am sure that doesn't read like so much a legal document, but more like something that anybody can read and understand. What is very interesting is that there is not much difference. It's like the way doctors used to function, they will keep functioning that way. Whatever was important, the rules that we used to follow as doctors, you will still be following those. And only that there is a framework that allows you to perform in an online environment. However, there are a couple of very important distinctions that will be different from before. Okay. So one very important factor that will be different is that I think a lot of basically the entire process of consultation will be on record, right? So that's a very interesting thing, that there will be records of every consultation you're doing. I don't know how you feel about that as a doctor. Would like to know from you guys, because for the first time, if nobody can actually raise a fake accusation of some negligence, medical negligence, because you'll have evidence to show that, look, this is the action I've taken. Everything is on record. And earlier, of course, if somebody goes to a doctor's chamber hospital, the records are always not that great, right? But now you'll have that. So you'll be able to establish all the steps you have taken right. But at the same time, if you take a wrong step, you will be under scrutiny, maybe greater scrutiny, there will be this thing. So of course, I think that was something that all doctors must be thinking about. With very progressive data protection regimes. And suddenly you might find that not only Indian law, but you are dealing with even other data protection related regimes, and they are global. So even if you're working in India, if you're dealing with subjects of the European Union, for example, you have to apply GDPR. And definitely those things, telemedicine companies, organizations, doctors will suddenly, everybody will have to learn more about data protection, implement data protection, GDPR processes within your systems, compliance processes within your systems. The guideline that has come out that says that doctors are not responsible for data breach. Okay, by the way, it says that if you have not caused a data breach, you are not responsible, which is wonderful for the doctors. But that is not how data protection laws, when they come, would be applicable. That is not how GDPR functions. Okay, you are liable. If you are the organization, if you are you are not liable personally, but if you are running an organization where, even if you are running a small clinic with a telemedicine facility, a telemedicine software using to give consultants, suddenly you become liable to comply with GDPR, even if you have some clients in the Europe. Or when you are dealing with India, the moment the similar equivalent law will come into force, it will become an issue, right? So these are the two major things I think doctors should really think about, and some amount of reorganization may be necessary in terms of protection of client data, your patient data. You don't say client, it's a patient data, and of course you have to protect yourself against accusations of any medical negligence. So for that, I think you'll need a strategy that, okay, we'll have to rethink things in a way that, because everything is recorded, and so the right thing should be recorded, and inadvertent mistakes should not happen. So these are my two things that I wanted to say. They're very important in my opinion.
We'll talk more about the legal aspect. There are so many questions already been asked by the participants the day before, so we'll take those questions also. So in between, Dr. Diksha has joined. Gaurav, can you please? Yes, thank you very much. So Doctor, already you have started. Dr. Diksha, can you
hear me now?
Yeah, yes. Now it is fine. So thank you very much
for having.
So we have already started, and we'll go with the discussions, and we'll give you some questions. So I'll just ask Dr. Vedarth that the same thing what we discussed in the legal perspective, that the patient consent. So can you tell how the patient consent is important? When you do a surgery, you take the consent of the patient. When you give a telemedicine or teleconsultation, how consent is important, you think?
So consent is actually the fulcrum of any surgical practice. Basically, it is a protection for the patient and also for the doctor. Before I take up any patient for a surgery, it is my duty to explain in detail that what are the steps of the surgery that I am going to take, and what are the likely positive outcomes, and also what are the risks. So as we all know, that surgery in itself is never a guarantee. You can always have a complication even in the simplest of procedures. So even though most surgeons do take their consent, do tell their patients about the risks and everything before the surgery, when things go wrong, there have been cases in which patients say, we were never explained, or we never realized that this is going to happen. So in that context, a telemedicine is very helpful, because actually we have records, as Dr. Ramanuj said. So it's a common practice in my hospital that we take video consents. That means whenever we take a consent for a surgery, we tell the patient that we're recording a video in which the entire conversation is recorded. So even if I don't have, when the patient says this particular thing was not explained to me, or I did not understand the full implication of this surgery, we can always go back to that recording and say, these are the points which we explained, and when we asked you, you said yes. So it's actually the recording part and recording part in in teleconsult is something which the surgeons and the doctor should take as a positive, because it gives them ironclad sort of evidence that they have explained the procedure and everything properly to the patient. So in that setting, the role of consent is important, and telemedicine, I feel, is facilitating the taking of that consent. And also in the subsequent follow-up visit, suppose you have done a surgery and there you see an infection, and when you tell there is probably an infection, we will give a trial of antibiotics. If it doesn't work, we will upgrade. Sometimes patients are not happy when you say your medicine is not working, the doctor is not seeing properly. All those things get recorded. So in the long run, these are the ones which actually support the doctor in when he unfortunately faces a legal issue with the patients.
Yeah, please, Ramanuj, go ahead.
Yeah, so just wanted to ask, this is my sense. Of course, I have no expertise on this, but I was just wondering if you think that, given that tomorrow what doctors are saying might be put under scrutiny in a court, don't you think maybe some new kind of training or some kind of, sensitization or these things may become required going forward? Like how we are going to, because there will be an unprecedented level of scrutiny compared to court.
Yes. So I would.
I'll just add on. I'll just tell to what Ramanuj. I completely agree that Government of India has made the guideline in March 25th. So already in the guideline itself, there will be a course is already planned by the Medical Council of India, and every practitioner who is going to practice telemedicine, they have to complete the course within 3 years of notifications. So you are absolutely correct. There must be course.
More than that, I think organizations, given the exposure to risk, organizations will come up with their own set of different rules and guidelines to give an excellence, to create some excellence in that. That's my feeling. What Mr.
So in that
Yeah, please.
context, Dr. Ramanuj, I agree with you. In fact, it's a problem which I have personally faced. So when you are giving a video consent or a consult over telemedicine which is on record, so you must be very careful about the words that you use, the numbers and figures that you tell the incidence of the disease is so and so percent. So that is the thing which a doctor must be very careful about, because anything and everything that you quote can be used against you in the future. If I say the incidence of congenital heart problems in 10% of the population, and in India, let's say it is 15%, then I am in trouble. So I must be up to date with my knowledge and also in the words that I use.
Yeah. So it's really wonderful. A lot of questions are coming up. So there are so many questions being asked by the participant. So almost 40 questions. So I had to segregate those questions, compile it. So I'll ask Dr. Diksha. So she's an expert in community medicine. So I'll ask that how telemedicine will help, especially the healthcare workers, because we know that the doctor-patient ratio, and we know the rural scenario of lack of doctors in the rural settings. So can you give your insight on how telemedicine is really helpful for the healthcare workers?
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. The doctor-patient ratio in our country is so skewed. And oftentimes we have seen that even if there is a medical officer posted in a particular primary health center, the doctor will not be reachable at every sub-center or every peripheral post every single day. However, we have enough man force in our, in our health worker staff, and they can be utilized to communicate through telemedicine with the doctors, and they can be, the extended arms and eyes of the physician, and they can definitely help the patients also. And through telemedicine, and of course this will happen only once our workers are also trained to handle this, but with the appropriate tools, technology and training, the health workers will benefit a lot. Because right now, if you look at the peripheral levels, a lot of time ASHA workers, even ANMs and RHVs, they have to take a lot of decisions on their own. And then some, even the most typical example I'll tell you is the simplest thing, dose of paracetamol in a child, even though it should be taken according to weight. But sometimes, the ASHA worker or the RHV may not remember that. The doctor may not be reachable, but if we have a proper telemedicine interface in place, then such critical decisions can be taken under the supervision and guidance of a doctor, and the health worker is also legally protected.
Great. So just one question we are taking from the participant that somebody has asked. Legal, is telemedicine finally legal and ethical? So we are discussing on this topic today, but the answer is yes. Government of India, after so many years, Government of India has made the guideline public, and MCA's Medical Council of India is taking the active role in building the guidelines. So it is legal now in India. So coming to the next question to Dr. Diksha, that what are different communicable and non-communicable diseases, those can be managed through telemedicine, because this is most important, because the disease burden can be minimized, and the last mile healthcare workers can be empowered with more, that I can say, the power to last mile healthcare workers. Telemedicine become the power to last mile. So what are the most important communicable and non-communicable diseases? Those can
Again,
be
I'll
managed
answer from the typical, community physician point of view. Most of the diseases already, if you guys might be aware that Government of India, the Health Ministry has already issued trainings and guidelines for a lot of illnesses. We now take a syndromic approach, or we try to simplify, the disease identification, so that the examination by doctor is not necessary. So telemedicine definitely can be used for a lot of communicable and non-communicable diseases also. I'll give you a typical example. Even in case of a sexually transmitted infection, just by asking a certain set of symptoms from the patient, a doctor is able to identify which particular syndrome the disease might belong to and can treat. So in communicable diseases, whether it is our routine cough and cold to a sexually transmitted infection, telemedicine does have a role to play currently. And in non-communicable diseases, I would say, besides the initial diagnosis, it's more important in the follow-ups. For diabetic patients, I have a few diabetic patients under my care. And because of the COVID situation, of course, the clinic is not working. So they routinely send me their blood sugar levels, or I'm routinely able to communicate with them via phones. And, it's really helpful for the routine follow-ups that we were holding for these patients. So yes, role to play both in communicable and non-communicable. I cannot exactly name all the diseases because
Yeah.
that would cover my entire park textbook then.
Yes, absolutely. So that means it is most important. I feel strongly that I agree with you that most the diabetes, hypertension, that the non-communicable diseases that is highly prevalent. So that can be managed and controlled through telemedicine. So my question to all expert today that the most important question I feel personally. So what are your thoughts to democratize telemedicine practice in India? So what I feel that doctors now in pockets. So can this happen really? How the government or the private or the civil societies are ready to accept the concept, and really we can democratize the telemedicine practice. If you can compare with other countries, even the insurance companies are accepting telemedicine consultations. India, it has not accepted, it has not been there, but still we are exploring. So just give your thoughts that how we can really reach to the common mass, like we have done it through demonetization. It is now COVID-19. So demonetization, they made it for the digital transactions and e-payments and everything. So can you do the same thing for the COVID-19? So COVID-19 now for telemedicine, people now, we really truly democratize it. So I'd like to ask Mr. Ramanuj to first and to continue with Dr. Vedarth and then to Dr. Diksha.
I think Dr. Ramanuj is
I think you
muted.
need to unmute him.
Yeah. Ramanuj, please unmute. Yeah.
Okay. Can you just rephrase the question once for me?
Yes. So the question is, what are your thoughts to democratize telemedicine practice in India?
Yeah. So So basically, I think that there's a massive potential in telemedicine, of course, but somehow it was not illegal. Some people did also telemedicine before, but we have not seen a massive traction of it in reality. And I think a lot of that is because many doctors did not actually adopt it. It would be, I don't think it will be an instant hit, but there is, the market suggests that there will be requirement for this, and it is a good idea. But I mean, given that so many people have no access, but I think it depends on two factors primarily. The guideline is not going to change much, except for maybe it will improve investor confidence in this, that yes, there is a framework from the government. It can improve investor confidence. It may attract capital in this area. But other than that, what I see for sure is definitely there are two factors which will drive. One is adoption by doctors. So are doctors largely interested in doing this? Do they see this as something that's something that they're interested to and like working on these platforms? And the other factor is whether there will be companies like innovative startups which will create solutions which actually solve existing problem areas. And both these things are kind of hard. It's not going to happen overnight because there's a regulation in place. So we have.
So Dr. Vedarth,
So just to conclude, I think what's going to be very interesting to see is whether because of this guideline there is an inflow of capital into the sector. And if that happens, we can, the demand is there. The demand is like the people who are not being able to access, it was there before, it is there now. But the question is whether supply side can be built up in a way that works. That's what my...
Absolutely. The capital infusion should be there for the telemedicine sector, so that there will be, it can, democratization can be possible. You're absolutely right. So Dr. Vedarth, can you give your insight for the how to
I agree
make
with
it?
Mr. Ramanuj when he says that the doctor acceptance has been the limiting factor in telemedicine in India so far. And I feel the biggest reason for that is the fact that the doctors have been getting a lot of, those who are established doctors, they get a lot of patients on the regular OPDs, and so they're not really interested in telemedicine. And the other thing which is always playing in their minds is the legal aspect of telemedicine, the fact that suppose a patient is not doing as well in telemedicine, then is the doctor really legally protected or not? So that part of information is largely lacking among the doctor community. The safety aspect and the legal protection that the doctor is afforded in telemedicine. That is one. The second thing is that there is a lot of skepticism among doctors to the fact that whether they will be able to do justice to the patients over a video call or over a phone call, which is a point of resistance. Now, having said that, when you're dealing with doctors who are practicing, doing private practice in the corporate setup, they're anyways practicing telemedicine to a large extent, if not in primary consult, but at least in follow-ups. Almost all the doctors do tend to give consults over phone or on WhatsApp, and change a little bit of medicine, give a painkiller there and here, and all those things to most of their post-op patients or most of their follow-ups, right? So there is a need to educate the medical fraternity about the benefits of teleconsultation, and to organize this largely unorganized telemedicine that is anyways going on in the country. So that would be my point of view. If we are able to do that, then definitely this will become preferred primary mode of first point of contact with healthcare. I think India is ready for that right now.
Great. So Dr. Diksha,
Yes.
please give your...
Agree with both the panelists on this, and what I have to add to this is, democracy by definition is a process which is for the people, by the people, and of the people. So the need and the demand for telemedicine has to come from the roots, from the people. They really need to realize that this is something which we actually need today. And with the recent COVID lockdown and the situation, to a large extent, people have realized the need of telemedicine, and the acceptability has also increased. So even though earlier, the masses were also confused how a doctor can give me treatment without looking at me, without feeling me, without touching me, right? Have now come to realize that there might be moments when this is also identified by the concept of freedom, right? So I would also say that this should not be forced upon everybody, not neither on the patients nor on the doctors. Especially in the corporate setting, there will be a lot of doctors who are still not comfortable with the idea of telemedicine, and we don't have to force it upon them. So in order to democratize the whole thing, it would be ideal if if it's a free process, if people realize its need, and then only those doctors who are willing to accept it are involved in it, and not all of them. I'll also share an example which is very close to home right here. My father-in-law runs a nursing home in semi-rural, outskirts of Delhi. So his daily OPD was close to 300. And he was absolutely unwilling to close his hospital because most of his patients come from, the lowest socioeconomic strata. And he is known in the area as a 10 rupee doctor. So he was absolutely opposed. He's 60 plus. We told him he's at high risk and there is risk for COVID, so he must shut down his OPD, but he refused to do that. But once we introduced him to the idea of telemedicine, that was really appealing to him, and he accepted that. And his OPD has shrunk from 300 per day to the in-person patients that he's seeing right now. It's 28 to 35 daily. That's it. So his quality of patient care has also improved. This is what he was telling me. So this is again another advantage that we have experienced, that a doctor can give more time to the patient who actually needs the doctor.
Absolutely. So another question will be that, there are almost 8 to 10 lakh pharmacies. So in across the country. So can they become a access point for telemedicine? Because most of the patients in India, they come and they over the counter, they ask for medicines. And there are also quack practice existing in the country. But in the guideline itself, it is written that the healthcare worker and the caregiver can also give can avail telemedicine services for the patients. So my point is that if we think of democratizing telemedicine, this is my thought to share with the experts, so that if the pharmacy can be empowered with the technology, so they can immediately reach out to doctor and also give the right medicine to the right patients. Is it a way forward? Something I'd love to hear from all the experts. Mr. Ramanuj, you can. I would like to hear from in this.
If you can rephrase the question in a sentence.
So the question is, we have 8 to 10 lakh pharmacies. Okay, so people are coming there for medications, and also in the most of the rural areas, people even ask for the medicines. I have cold and cough and fever, I have pain and everything, and give me medicines. But can these 8 lakh, 10 lakh pharmacies can be converted to a telemedicine center where people are coming and they can immediate access to doctors? So this is where I see.
I know that MedTel also works in this space, but I think that's a lot of interesting work to be done there. It's essentially the challenge is for coming up with solutions that people find usable, that people find the interface works for them, something that they can understand, and definitely taking an approach to going to the pharmacies and making those pharmacies, turning them into some sort of a telemedicine center is a great idea, no question about that. The challenge that would be there is that providing people, like it's a behavior change, right? So people would still say, I'll go to the pharmacy and ask for that tablet. Why should I even consult anyone? Why should I even spend 100 rupees and speak to a doctor when I've been doing something for last 20 years? Why am I going to change even that? So it's like to get people to change that behavior. Even if I understand this is much closer to what they already do, and perhaps there's a shot that it may work, but at the same time, it's not going to be as easy as just that. Okay, there would be like challenges of getting people to alter their behavior, and I think that's the biggest challenge. So people thought that once there would be phone in everybody's hand, then telemedicine would be so simple, but it hasn't happened. And most people do not believe in the concept yet. Like somehow it would take a while for the common people to accept. So one thing is that they would probably adopt this in a desperate situation, not in a situation where they are very comfortable already and just going to a pharmacy and trying to get some solution. They might be going in like much dire need, like late at night, they need some immediate solution, they can't reach anybody, and then they reach out for telemedicine. I know so many people who have never opted for telemedicine during the lockdown started looking for telemedicine, asking for suggestions that, what can I use? Like, is there a way I can reach a doctor because I need it? So I think the necessity would be like that. Like, apart from very routine things, emergencies would drive telemedicine is what my sense.
Thank you. So Dr. Vedarth, can we, so the topic is like we are trying to democratize, so the thoughts are coming up, so that's why.
The idea that you put forward is actually has got merit in it. The fact that a lot of the population, in fact, the majority of the population, they have a headache, they go to a pharmacist. Yeah, further ki dawai de, give me a headache, and that usually works for them. So in that context, I agree with with Mr. Ramanuj that yes, the patient probably will not be willing for a consent to consult with the doctor at that point. But now, having said that, we can harness the pharmacist. We don't need to see every patient. every patient really does not require a doctor's consult. But yes, the pharmacist is a healthcare worker. So he is able to identify patients which actually would benefit from a doctor's consult. And then yes, if he can set up a doctor's consult and in some way have some kind of a say in that consult, I think it will help in bringing the masses to the teleconsult platform. Somebody who is coming in with a repeated problem, taking the same symptomatic medication, probably will end up seeing a doctor much earlier than otherwise set up. So that way, the idea does have merit, and I feel it is a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Dekha?
So yes, like Dr. Vedarth also said, this has a lot of merit in it. There are only two things that we'll have to consider in the scenario. One is that our pharmacists are, the course that they do, they are not exactly our health workers, right? They are trained to handle medicines. They train to understand the pharmaceutical sciences. So they will have to be retrained a little bit to legally enable this to an extent if they have to examine the patients and everything else. Maybe not. That's just my thought. Consent. Let's saying my internet connection is unstable. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second, I'm saying what we were discussing earlier, the consent. How does consent work in this scenario? Does the patient consent to be, examined by the pharmacist or not? Because pharmacist is neither a nurse, nor a healthcare worker, nor a relative of the patient. Not a caretaker to the patient. So especially in cases of having a female patient and a male pharmacist, how is consent going to work in this scenario? So there are minor nitty-gritties that we might have to figure out, but yes, the idea itself has a lot of merit in it because the infrastructure is already in place. The pharmacist would be a member of the community that people know well, and again, a pharmacy would most likely, especially in the rural area, also would be a place where there would be electricity connection, where there would be other things available, and can definitely be turned into a place that is suitable for a telemedicine consultation. But the challenges, we will have to figure them out as we go, and find the solutions to them.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just add on to this that you might have known about that is community pharmacy is there now. It's one of the area of pharmacy. So they are doing it now. Like they can be, I think, empowered with these technologies.
Yes.
So they can also participate in this drive.
Definitely.
So yeah. So some of the questions from our participants. So some questions are relevant, some questions are not relevant, but I'd love to answer those questions. So how can we implement telemedicine concept in pharmaceutical market in fruitful way? But this is not relevant, but I would love to take this because some relevance is there again if you think from either side. So how can we implement telemedicine concept in pharmaceutical marketing? That the question is very simple. What I understand that before the doctors, pharmacy, like medicine representative were coming to doctors. What I know, they ask that please, sir, also write our medicines. So can it be like that people now the medicine representative tell, can you tell our medicine? They write our medicine and to tell our medicine. That means it is telephonic and telemedicine. So is this going to happen? So just I'd like to hear from Dr. Vedarth.
So basically, as per the recent guidelines, we are no longer prescribing any brands. So we are just writing generics, and it becomes more important in telemedicine because, as it was pointed out, everything gets recorded. So I think that is the point where this marketing will probably put us into trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah. Please, Ramanuj, please. Please unmute.
You are muted.
Okay.
So, this is very interesting because one of the business models that has been explored in telemedicine initially was that the medicine companies tried building telemedicine softwares, and they said that we will have doctors who will see you and then we will give you the prescription, we will sell you the medicine, right? Because apart from consultation business, all medicine business is probably bigger than that. So there has been this kind of fusion of business models who had tried. The current guideline does not has created some transparency there. It has made it clear that you can even connect it to some medicine seller or pharmacy, but then you must give the person a choice, and you have to, whatever you do, you have to do it with his consent. Now, it may be possible to obtain the consent, because you just have to obtain a consent in writing, which could be a SMS, which could be an email, or it could be a electronically generated consent. So I am sure that there will be companies which will be testing the water in these areas and will be coming up with solutions where they can directly collaborate with the doctors and get preferred kind of treatment for getting medicine orders. So I am pretty sure that we'll get to see some of those happening. But what would be interesting from a legal perspective is that the solutions they will build, because law doesn't stop you from having a preferred partner. You just have to give an opportunity to the patient to make their own choice as well. You have to get them to opt out. You have to give them an option to opt out. So as long as you have built an opt out option in your software, it should be fine. Now that remains to be seen, that what solutions will be built and what kind of legal challenges they will be facing, and what happens, because I'm pretty sure that we're going to see a lot of companies working very hard for getting a piece of the market.
Yeah. So anything you'd like, Dr. Diksha, you'd like to add on this?
I actually would want to hear the question again. I missed it.
Yeah. So the question was how can we implement telemedicine concept in pharmaceutical market in fruitful way? This was a question from the participant.
I'm not frankly very sure how you would implement that. In fact, are we allowed to even go in that area? I mean, as doctors, we are supposed to be writing just generics, right?
Yes. You're absolutely correct. So the most important question I feel that the one of the participant has asked, that how can we develop trust in telemedicine from both patient and provider perspective? Then can we build that patient-doctor relationship through telemedicine, which was before through physical consultation? So this is asked by the question is by Abdurrab Alam. So this is very, I feel this is most important question. Yeah. Dr. Vedarth, please give your insight on this.
So I would suggest that the same principles which we practice in an OPD, sitting down and consulting a patient, which helps us in build the trust in the doctor-patient relationship, is what applies to telemedicine also. That means you give every patient your due, you listen to their complaints carefully and give stress to what is bothering them and what is not bothering them, and give time to the what they're trying to show, and then prescribe accordingly. That's the first thing. And second thing, very importantly, that should be there is an option for a follow-up. Right, the follow-up should be easily accessible, so that yes, in case of any issues that the patient is facing, he can come back to you. The doctor needs to be very sympathetic and sensitive towards this issue that the patient is not able to see you in person. So basically, he tends to feel that the consult is somehow not complete. So the doctor has to be sensitive to that, has to listen to the patient, give an option for a follow-up, and yes, be very clear that this when I give a medicine, this might not work out. If it doesn't work out, then please come back and we'll change it. We'll go forward from that. So honesty and patience is what is required to build the relationship, as is true for any non-OPD consult.
Yeah. So anything you'd like to add, Dr. Rika, on this, the trust between the patient and the doctors? how telemedicine can bring that.
Absolutely. Just like Vedarth said, it is absolutely similar to an inpatient consultation. Just you have to work a little, the usuals of being polite, listening to their problem with concern, understanding all their difficulties, giving them an explanation to all their symptoms, in addition to the treatment, and having your patients with their extra questions, especially in the current times like with COVID. Most of the calls that I'm getting these days, these are alarmed patients who think and are wondering if they have COVID. So it's also about explaining what issues they have, and then they might end up asking you some of very general queries, like I heard this on the internet, or I got a WhatsApp message that said this, is that true? So we should not get angry or frustrated with such questions, and as healthcare professionals we should take our time in explaining all the issues that they are facing. Any query that they have which might be medical related or related to health education, we should be able to answer that to them. And I think it's all about listening to them and answering every question that they have. If you are able to do that, the trust gets built automatically.
Yeah,
I will.
correct. So
Can I
also I
also
think,
add one last point? So this was from the patient side. Also from the doctor side, I think, me personally, I would feel that the trust also comes in if uh, the patient also needs to trust the doctor and believe the doctor, and not counter question the doctor. One thing which I find breaks the trust between doctors is some of the patients would call you, take a full consultation, and that at the end of it they might end up saying, oh, but I consulted this another doctor and he said this. That really puts you in a jam, because you do not ever want to question a colleague's judgment, and every doctor has their own judgment and technique and qualities while consulting online with a doctor, I would say.
That is something that happens even in the standard OPD, don't you think, after a long consult? So that's something which we are used
so I think I think the technology will add on, technology tools will also add on, like chatbots, notifications, reminders. If this will come from the doctors automatically, also the trust will be there also. If the technology will also build trust through these tools like notification, reminders, even chatbots. So another important question is how we can establish a low-cost telemedicine center. This is a question.
Ramanuj wanted to say something.
Please.
Can you?
Yeah, please, Ramanuj.
You have to unmute him. Ramanuj, you have to unmute yourself.
Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. So I mute myself so that noise does not disturb, but then I can't unmute unless you give me permission. Then I can unmute. Okay. So what I wanted to just quickly add is that there is a huge potential for all this problem of patients not getting information or coming and asking a lot of unnecessary questions, which takes up a lot of time of the doctor. After all, doctor's time is very precious, right? It should be spent on other things apart from just you do whatever is needed. But I think the opportunity to automate a lot of this information being passed on and health education is very high. So the moment when you have telemedicine, instead of many things that you'd have to normally tell to a patient in OPD might be automated, because I don't know if there are softwares that are already built for this, but I believe there would be huge modules created for different illnesses and symptoms, where they would have to go through their self-diagnosed quizzes. They will report information based on which they can be passed on certain other information. So when they are coming to the doctor, they already have certain amount of trusted, credible knowledge, and then the conversation will be much more high quality. So the opportunity in telemedicine in that way is massive. It could really trump the normal medicine system that is there, because after all, a doctor cannot give too much time to a patient. There is a limit to how much time you can get, and the patient may have unlimited questions for that matter. But once you have given him a trusted sources of information, and all of it is processed through automated processes, the burden on healthcare workers will come down. Patients will get better information, they'll have way more trust. So online you can build more trust, right? And it's so amazing that you can send them an email every day reminding all the things they need to follow. You can even set up alarms on their phone and remind them when they have to take the medicine. It is incredible what you can. The potential is just tremendous, right? We have not even probably done 1% of what is possible. So
any software coming to me with this pitch is a winner now. Automating all of this extra conversations that I'm doing every day. Yeah, this should be the pitch.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. So
there are a couple of questions, Lalit, people ask me on law. Okay, so whenever you are ready.
Okay.
But somehow they will send the questions to me personally and not on the general chat, so you'll not be able to see.
So what my point is, like, already it is time is over. So definitely this topic, when I was preparing everything, so I saw it is one webinar, it is minimum 10 webinars. So we need. So the last question will what the participant asked the more relevant question: how can you establish a low-cost telemedicine center?
No cost or low cost?
So low-cost telemedicine center. The question is have come from the participant. So can you give your insights on this? This is the last question.
Yeah. I think you are the person who is most.
You should talk about it, right?
Okay. Thank you. So I'll be telling you that the answer is whoever has a mobile phone now, he can operate a telemedicine center as his home. He can be a caregiver. If mother can be a caregiver, a son can be a caregiver for mother. So the definition of the guideline itself says the caregiver, and the caregiver has no qualifications, nothing is there. The caregiver anyone can be. So in a residential community, in a community itself, in any civil society organizations, anyone can start now telemedicine center, and anyone can use the power of mobile phone, how they can communicate. And there are multi-channels like WhatsApp. You can consult with doctor. You can have mobile app. You can establish a telemedicine clinic also. So the telemedicine clinic, you can have multiple devices we need. We can discuss in another webinar on that. So that will take all 1 hour for that. So the point is very clear here that if you have a mobile phone here, you can start a telemedicine center. You can serve your community. You can serve your family. So there is nothing to invest on telemedicine center, but if you add on more value addition to the telemedicine center, definitely you have to use more technology solutions. But of course, to start with the telemedicine center, you just need a mobile phone and a smartphone. It may be a feature phone, can also be. So you can just give a missed call also to a doctor, and doctor will give a call back. That is what we believe. So there should not be no barrier for the patient, that whether it's a smartphone, it's a feature phone, whether it's a downloading the app, whether it's a WhatsApp users in India are 400 million users. So we have already working in the WhatsApp. So we are working on a bot that Hey Health. So you just say Hey Health on a WhatsApp, and a doctor is going to call you. So that is the mode to reach to patients. There should not be limitations for only app, only browser, only certain mobile phone, only devices. It is now open-ended. Anyone can access through anything and reach out to doctors. That is what I can say about the low cost of telemedicine center. So almost we have it is 5:03, I think. Okay, already 5 o'clock. So I would say all the participants for I think the whole session, the limitation was 100, and I think whole session it is 100 almost. And there are more than 300 participants already registered for this session, and many are requesting me that I am on a waiting room. So, but really it is a great success for all of the participants. They wanted to participate in the new topic, and hopefully we'll send all the video recording to everyone, those who could not participate. And also I am thankful to the Gaurav on behalf from KIIT-TBI for organizing this whole everything, and to our expert Dr. Vedarth, Dr. Diksha, and Mr. Ramanuj, giving their wonderful insights. I hope this is just the beginning. We can reach out more to our participants, and we'll talk more about telemedicine in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Late.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, and
Thank
I
you.
would also like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, Dr. Vedarth. Thank you so much, Dr. Diksha and Ramanuj Mukherjee. And thank you, Dr. Late, to you as well. And this was a very insightful and interactive session. Like we had tried to cover as more questions we could, but due to the time constraint, so I think the questions we received through the registration form. So we still have so many questions in the chat box as well as some raised hands. So we are sorry we will not be able to take these questions now, but we have the next webinar. So and the ones who were not able to join, we'll be sharing the YouTube link with you with the recordings of the session. And you can register for the next webinar. I have just shared the link in the chat box. And the next webinar is on resilience during COVID-19, and it is taken by Smarnika Jaina, CEO and co-founder of Mindbound Creatives. And this webinar is on 19th of May, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we'd like to take your feedback as well. So we'll be sharing with all of you the feedback form, emails, whoever registered, and as well as the YouTube link for the recording of this session. And I hope you liked the session, and also we were able to answer your questions as well. And yeah, I'd like to thank all our panelists, speakers, and moderator. Thank you so much. It was such a great session today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Any other query, guys, you can reach me on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Sure. Perfect.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Vedarth.
so
Thank
much.
you, Dr.
Yeah.
Ramanuj. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.